Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 116 of the Sports Daily College Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Vowells. I've got Mike Koomar with me live tonight here, Monday night of Feast Week. Mike, it's finally here. We were talking about it a little bit earlier, but what's it like for you to see some Feast Week action?
It's just so much fun. There's been already a lot of surprising results, I think, in my opinion. We'll talk about Seton Hall absolutely dominating against NC State and a few other action. The Big 12 is in full force right now. They're looking so far so good. But this is, for a lot of teams, this is our first look because they haven't had as strong as an out of conference schedule as Alabama or Illinois or UConn, schools like that. So this is a first chance for us to see some teams play Power Four talent for the first time this year. It's a lot of fun.
And Mike, we're going to talk about the games today. We're going to go back a little bit first. But on the other hand, there was a pretty big announcement today, as the first game of the Players Era was tipping off. And it was between your conference, the Big 12, and Players Era, the tournament that is sort of killing Feast Week. And there's been a little bit of an adjustment here. The Big 12 and Players Era signed a deal for $50 million in NIL payouts over the future. They will receive 8 automatic bids to the festival as part of the equity partnership. It turns out they'll get at least 5. Each team, as we know, gets $1 million for just showing up. And then the format, on the other hand, is something that is going to be different here in year 3. We're in year 2. But this new format, there's going to be 32 teams. We're going to have 4 8-team tournaments, like your typical Maui, Atlantis, 3-game guarantee, all that. The winner of those 4 tournaments, which will take place over 2 weekends, will come back the 3rd weekend for a final tournament, I guess. So when you saw this, what were your thoughts?
First off, I think with the Big 12 having such a big investment, a lot of this has to do with money for these schools. You look at the Big 12 in opposition to the SEC, the Big 10, and maybe even in regards to the ACC. The Big 12 has significantly less money and significantly less payouts than those other power conferences. And so this is a way that Brett Yormark is continuing to squeeze money into the Big 12. It's something that he's been very ambitious about. But as we've talked about earlier on in this season, a lot of what's going on with college basketball is we're squeezing the money out of it and just getting every little ounce that we can while also watering down the product of college basketball. And I think that's what's happening again here. It's like private equity taking over Big 12 almost.
And
And there's so many better formats for the Big 12 to be involved in. You know, the from a fan's perspective, watching a full Battle for Atlantis is a lot more fun. Watching a full Maui Invitational with a packed Civic Center in Maui is so much more fun than watching a completely empty arena in Las Vegas where there's maybe 1,000 people into a big NHL arena.
yeah,
It's just go ahead.
that's the early takeaway from me is that these games in Vegas, especially the one going on right now, and since this is live, let's comment on it. Syracuse and Houston are tied with a minute left. 11-0
Yeah,
run for
that's
the
shocking.
Orange. That's what I was reacting to there as you were going, Mike. But there's a reason why the ballrooms and the civic centers work for MTEs. You get 3,000, maybe 2,500 people in these places. There's a select small group of fans that'll travel, but it's really not really fair to expect your fan base to fill up more than that, especially if you're going to Hawaii or Bahamas or Vegas isn't all that close to these places either. So
And on
that's
Thanksgiving week.
that's
Yeah.
why it works though, because they fill that place and it's loud. Mark Titus from Barstool said the loudest environment that he's ever heard was the Lahaina Civic Center for the semifinals of the Maui, not even for the championship game. So I think Maui, the field is obviously not as good as it has been. I thought both games already today have delivered. We had Seton Hall
Yeah.
upsetting NC State and then USC and Boise State going down to the wire in a pretty, good game. And then Atlantis obviously hasn't started yet. But like you said, Mike, these, NBA, NHL arenas in the middle of the day during the week in Nevada, where nobody is within driving distance except for
No.
UNLV, they're not like 10%, 15% full, maybe. And you had a couple okay crowds in there, but still, like 12 to
And to people that ask,
15,000
like,
is a
why does
lot
the
of
crowd
people.
matter? Right? Like, why does a crowd matter? The why for a crowd matters is when you get into playing, tough basketball coming down the stretch in the season in February and into March, like, you're going to be playing in front of boisterous crowds. A lot of them are going to be 50-50 splits when you get to your conference championship in March in March Madness. It matters how you learn how to play in those environments early on in November. It creates more pressure for your teams. It's a lot more exciting for the fans at home to be watching a game that's got a whole lot of people there that are supporting their teams. And it's just not fun to watch. My Baylor Bears play Creighton in an empty arena on a Monday at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time where I am. People have work. They're
Yeah.
not tuning in to watch that game. We
If it
got
w-
stuff to do.
if it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe they could
Yeah,
do a little better. And I know that, the final day is split between Wednesday and Thursday, but like the consolation games are on Thursday. Their fans are going to
who
leave.
cares?
If their team is 0-2 or 1-1, they're going to leave to spend Thanksgiving with their family rather
Yeah,
than see a seventh place game of the Players Era on Thanksgiving. So
yeah.
I think today and
Nobody
tomorrow,
cares to
Mike,
see.
might be the better crowds.
Yeah, nobody wants to see 0-2 Notre Dame wait a day to play a consolation game on Thursday, or a 1-1 Notre Dame or whoever. It doesn't matter. Like, unless you've got a super dedicated fan base, and I think you're going to see this. I don't think you're going to see the Dukes, the UNCs, the
Yeah.
UConns. Well, Kansas is there, but I think with the exception of Kansas, I don't think you're going to see the Blue Bloods coming to Players Era because it's really not that great of. I don't think it's that exciting
And
unless you're there for the money, which
and
is what most schools are there for.
and Kelvin Sampson in this article, Mike, it has a bunch of quotes. I'll scroll down a little bit here. He's like, they're giving us 1 million. That's why we're there. I would say that's why all the teams are there. We didn't sign up for this to have a tournament where we could play each other. We signed up because they're giving us 1 million. If you decided to put a court down at some vacant lot and give us 1 million, I'd go play there too. So look, Kelvin Sampson's one of the greatest coaches of all time in the college game, and he is sort of just bluntly saying what's going on here. And Syracuse and Houston are going to overtime, so both missed shots down the stretch there. But yeah, it seems like
That's
that
100%, 100%
this
true. If you paid a team $1 million to go play in Rucker Park right now in New York City, they'd do it.
it'd probably be a better atmosphere too.
It probably would, yeah.
Yeah, but I think obviously they're still tweaking it. And when Atlantis came around, people thought that Maui was dead and that the Great Alaska Shootout was dead, and that was sort of half true because it's a whole lot easier to get to Nassau than Alaska for 90% of the teams. Um,
Yeah.
but Maui is still Maui. Like, this is as bad as
It's
it
a
could
staple.
probably get, and have two. They had two really nice games today. Now, games 3 and 4 might not be so great, but that's I'd like to see how the ratings match up. I think Maui
Yeah.
probably comes in at 2 or 3 today.
I guess another thing I got I just need to do more research on is how is Players Era, like, how are they making money?
Yeah,
I know they're funded by MGM. I think they're funded by like Sam's Club, Lilly, whatever. So some big corporations,
yeah.
but there's no way they're getting the investment they're putting into this.
You would think
Are they?
not. Well, if you look at one of the games has like 9 logos on the court from the various companies that you mentioned, Mike.
Yeah.
So obviously that they're definitely not getting it from ticket sales. That's for sure. But yeah, here we go. There's Geico, MGM Grand, BetMGM, Sam's Club,
Lilly, I think.
Lily's,
Lilly
and the Boys
Flower.
and Girls
Yeah.
Club. Yeah, so that's all on the court, and they're
And I'm
playing.
sure they're getting some sort of partnership with like TNT and True. Like, I think it's Warner Brothers, but
Yeah,
I I don't know if this is sustainable for a Players Era. I kind of hope it's not.
yeah, and
Um,
yeah, you'd
because
have to
this is not good for
think
the sport.
that they're still doing tweaks, and I'm not going to say that it stinks. It's worse than normal, right? If we had a good
Yeah.
Maui, a good Atlantis, a good, Fort Myers tip off, a good Baha Mar. It's worse than that. It's still good basketball games. Iowa State, St. John's went down the stretch. It's still better
Yeah.
than nothing, but this is sort of a bigger example of what's happening in college sports. And Mike,
Yeah.
this to me is like, this is what expanding the tournament is going to feel like. You're
Absolutely.
if
Absolutely. And like we said, it's all about the money, right? So
yeah
I think the tournament is probably going to expand. It's probably inevitable, but it doesn't make March Madness any better,
no
right? These teams that they're going to be adding are not going to have a chance to go win a national championship. And that's what March is about. We love the Cinderella stories. They're always a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it's about crowning a national champion. It's not about exposure for a bunch of other Power Four teams that finish the year 15 and 15.
and the way that the tournament's going to be expanded, it seems like we're going to be adding games at the first four or whatever it's going to be called in the future.
Yeah.
That means more Tuesday and Wednesday games during the week. And if your team isn't that good, the fans are not going to go up to Dayton, Ohio on 2 days'
No,
notice to go watch that game. So
no.
I think this is sort of what, like, Dayton Arena is pretty big, and it's not as big
Yeah.
as some of the bigger, it's 10,000. It's not as big as some of the bigger venues in the tournament, but this is sort of what, like, whatever it's called, the first 8 or the first 16, what it's going to look like here in the future, I think. And you might get a one-off game where the team's really good and then they go on a run to the Sweet 16, but I like the first four the way it is. I think you get a taste of two probably solid teams that didn't really play as well as they wanted to this year, but
Mhm.
It's going to be 16 of those teams now, and maybe one of them could get to the Sweet 16, but probably not. There's a reason that they're in that spot to begin with. All right, Mike, let's get on a little bit of a better note here. We're going to go back to the weekend, talk about Purdue. They picked up a victory at the Baha Mar Championship, which, wasn't exactly surprising. It was the manner that they did it. They beat Texas Tech by 30, 86
Yeah.
to 56, and it's cropped out here, so I'm going to have to fix this in a minute. But, Mike, they're up by 23 at halftime. They have, a 31-2 run, something of that, nature. And then after halftime, they extended it. They won the second half by 7, too. So Purdue
Yeah.
dominant over a pretty good Texas Tech team.
Well, it's funny because 9 minutes into this game, Texas Tech actually had a lead in this game. They're up by one 9 minutes in, and then the last 11 minutes of the first half through the second, it's just turned into an absolute dumpster fire for the Red Raiders. This was, I think, the reason this was so surprising. I mean, there's a lot of reasons this is so surprising, but Purdue kind of went wire to wire with a 1-4 Memphis team
The
the
day
night
before,
before.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think they kind of felt like, the Boilers probably felt like they'd left a lot out there on the court, and they were looking to probably redeem themselves to a degree. Texas Tech had to have, you know, I'm not going to say it was it was a hard fought victory. It didn't look great.
Yeah.
And I think we thought Tech was going to be a little bit better than they are right now. But that was pretty rough for the Red Raiders. But what a statement win for the number one team in the country after kind of not a great first game. Tech's got a lot of work to do, though. They looked bad on all sides of the court. They could not get back in transition. They turned the ball over, 10 times. Shooting the ball, they shot terribly. 8 of 34 from 3 point. They were also only 8 of 14 from the line. So it was just a really cold day. And some things happened during MTEs.
Yeah.
But the Red Raiders are going to be leaving Baha Mar with a salty taste in their mouth with how bad that last game went.
Yeah, this is a game where if you get to watch it back, I would, just because the things that Purdue did here are really unprecedented from a scout perspective, and considering they had like less than a day to do this, it's really impressive. The way that they guarded the screens, they got it out of the top two players' hands. They said, all right, we're not going to let Anderson and Toppin beat us, and the role players did not come to play at all, and things
Yeah.
start to avalanche, and this sort of thing happens. But I think it seemed like one team had 6 days to prepare and the other team didn't prepare at all. And it seemed like Texas Tech, just their defensive philosophy, they didn't really change it for the personnel on Purdue. Like, Purdue got the shots they wanted, and then Texas Tech was taking the shots that Purdue wanted. And obviously things, sort of got out of hand pretty quickly. Purdue made a bunch of shots in a row, and this is going to be an ugly one for the computers. That's for sure.
Yeah, and maybe you can credit Purdue for getting a little bit of time to scout Texas Tech after they had their win. They were able to get out there. They were in the first game, but like you said, Texas Tech just looked completely unprepared. And sometimes you get that in
Yeah.
MTEs, right? Sometimes you're just not ready to play the team that's next because you don't have a couple days to prepare. You have
Yep.
a couple hours.
Yeah.
But Texas Tech, they just got absolutely embarrassed. And I will say too, I think that that first game against Wake Forest sure felt like that was a lot closer than it should have been. Wake Forest, for a large part of that game, looked like they were going to win that game, especially coming down the stretch. With 2.5 minutes to go, they had the lead. Um, not saying any disrespect to Wake Forest, but I think we all expect Tech to be better than that. And then to just lay an egg against Purdue, it's concerning for the Red Raiders.
And didn't
First big black mark, I think, on the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, Texas Tech, they went up to Champaign to play in Illinois. They played pretty hard. They lost a toss-up game on the road to a good team.
Yeah.
But this was a little bit different. And in that third place game, Mike, was between the losers of against these two teams the first time around, and that was Wake Forest and Memphis. And how about this? Former Purdue player, now Wake Forest player Miles Colvin, hits a three at the buzzer to beat Memphis, and you have all the Purdue fans chanting for Miles Colvin. That's something that you probably
Cool.
saw coming. Purdue fans would be cheering for Miles Colvin. But he was wearing a different uniform. It was a pretty cool moment that, in the age of the transfer portal, you have a lot of former players coming to play at their old arena, and they get booed relentlessly, and it's a pretty ugly scene. But a little bit of the opposite here. Happy for,
Yeah, I
for
think
Wake
that was.
Forest and happy for Colvin, because Wake Forest has been playing pretty solid this year.
Yeah, Wake Forest. I will say they've definitely exceeded expectations before. Nearly beat Michigan in a pseudo away game. Uh, they had a good chance to as well against the Red Raiders. But in this one, I think that's so cool to see with Colvin. He was never going to be a star. It didn't feel like with Purdue. He's a good role player last year. Played about 18 minutes a game, scored about 6 points a game or so. But to be able to go do that in front of his former home fans, he's an Indianapolis native too. That was a pretty cool moment, I think, in terms of the transfer portal. I think it shows that Purdue definitely does support their players even when they're no longer on the team. So a good W for Boilermaker fans out there. That was cool. And for Memphis, I mean, this season actually seems to be like a nightmare. They haven't even really, other than Purdue, they haven't played a really tough schedule. They lost to Ole Miss, UNLV. Those aren't great losses. And they're 1-4 now. And you look at it, and they're going to have plenty of time to play catch up in the American Conference. But if they have any slip ups,
Yeah.
they're probably not going to be an at large in March this year and they still got some big games. They get to play Baylor, they get to play Houston, Louisville, they get to play Vanderbilt, they get to play Mississippi State. So they still get some Power Four chances. I think that Baylor one's going to be a big one because that's going to be at home after a couple of tune-ups. But man, what a tough start for the Tigers.
Yeah, Memphis has got to figure it out quick. They are not in the position to sort of backdoor their way into the tournament with a great conference schedule, unless, of course, they win the automatic bid, which they
Yeah.
have a couple times over the years. But this Baha Mar tournament was pretty cool. It's not, and a lot of people online like to combine the two Bahamas tournaments together, and they think it's the same ballroom. It's not. Baha Mar is a
Yeah.
different resort than Atlantis, but still they look identical. It's dark. The floor can be slippery at times. I could see how it can be. You could think they're the same, but with Atlantis perhaps fading, maybe Baha Mar, you know, is will take a step up because they had a pretty good field last year. Your Baylor St. John's, that infamous game, was there in that
Yeah.
tournament, and I feel like they've had some good ones over the years. It's been a 4-team tournament, the weekend before Feast Week, but as the other ones look down, maybe that one can start to get a little bit better here. And they had, honestly, three really good games here, and the only one that wasn't a good game was the championship game.
Yeah, absolutely. You looked at Baha Mar last year too. You had
Yeah.
Baylor, St. John's, Tennessee, and UVA. UVA obviously wasn't very good last year, but they were supposed to be. So Baha Mar was able to get four really good teams to come in. This year they had a couple good teams, but this could be one of those because you only need four. You only need four teams.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than needing a full 18 field like they need at the Battle for Atlantis. I really hope that tournament's not going by the wayside because it really is a fun one to watch. But this year is probably the worst year since its first year in existence.
And that was an interesting one last year, Mike, because St. John's played Georgia in an extra game on that floor.
Yes.
And then I believe Georgia also played Marquette, who was in Battle for Atlantis. Or they played another team who was in Battle for Atlantis. So they went down there for two non
Teams
MTE
played
games.
other games
Yeah.
in neutral court games in the
Yeah.
Bahamas,
So
which was really
that
cool.
that is cool. We've seen it with Hawaii a little bit. A team will go down and play the Bows before
Hmm.
Maui. I think North Carolina did
Yeah,
it
UNC
last
did
year.
it a couple years
I think
ago. Yeah.
somebody did it this year too at Arizona State, I believe. But yeah, that's just cool. It's another wrinkle, and that it's just a fun neutral. Coaches love to schedule neutral court games, as we've made pretty clear here over the last few years, and it just seems like a fun thing. Hopefully, we see a little bit more of that. Maybe with Players Era, we might have it starts on Monday, maybe on Friday. You get the court ready, and there's an extra game with two teams there. But
Yeah.
more basketball is good. Let's talk about another weird game that happened on Friday, Mike. We sort of prefaced this a little bit in our MTE preview or Feast Week preview. We recorded it before the game happened, so we couldn't really talk about it. But this Wisconsin BYU game at Salt Lake City, it was 4 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, so that would be 2 o'clock Mountain time on the floor for the Utah Jazz, which was decorated for the NBA Cup game that night. Really odd to see these two teams playing on a purple court when they're red and blue, but BYU gets a little bit of their mojo back here. They beat a pretty solid Wisconsin team by nearly 30, but you have to be pretty impressed with BYU here.
Yeah, I think traveling out to play somewhere in Utah is got to be pretty, or anywhere that's high in altitude when you are the road team. It was definitely clearly a BYU home game. I know it wasn't super well attended. I think about 9,000 guys, attendees were there, but like you said, BYU finally got their swagger back. They scored the daylights out of the ball. They scored 53 in the second half, shot the cover off the ball. This is the recipe for success for the BYU Cougars. The issue with them, as we've said all year, Sean, is what team is BYU going to be when they can't shoot the ball well, when they have an off night. But we know how they're going to play when they shoot the ball relatively decently. They're going to be able to run up and down the court and make a lot of buckets. This game, they shot 48% from the floor. That's not incredible, right? But they got so many shots up and so many easy looks that they were on their way to getting close to 100. So this seems like a recipe for success for them. For Wisconsin, a little bit. I don't think it's that big of a concern. If I'm being honest, I think it's just another bump along the road. Yeah, it's looks ugly when you lose by almost 30 points, but you also look at a pretty short trip. You're playing somewhere in altitude. Your players are going to have a harder time to adjust. So it's going to be tougher. Playing in Utah as your home state. That's a hell of a home court advantage.
Yep. And
In more ways than one.
we used to talk about the Utah trip when they, in the Pac-12 in the Mountain West, when the teams would go out and play Utah and BYU. That would be, results didn't go too well for the teams on the road there. But the interesting thing here, Mike, is that BYU passed the ball. They had 18 assists on 31 buckets, 11 of those coming from Rob Wright. They weren't passing it like they did in this game earlier in the season, and that they were just isolation ball early when they sort of couldn't really shake off Villanova when they lost to UConn. It was a lot of ISO ball. It wasn't a whole lot of cohesion in the sort of chemistry that we saw from last year's team, but they seem to be doing that a little bit. Rob Wright seems to have, he still did take the second most shots here, but 11 assists, 7 rebounds, 10 points. He nearly had himself a triple-double. But
Yeah.
if you're looking at that 11 assist number, that's a promising sign.
Yeah, I mean that's why you pay a point guard $4 million, right? Is to go get assists and distribute the ball. BYU has plenty of playmakers. They don't need Rob Wright to be shooting the ball, being the leading shooter of the team. He was almost that, but they have Richie Saunders that can shoot a lot of threes. They've got AJ DeBansa, they've got Kevakita, like they've got a lot of good playmakers. They don't need Rob Wright to be scoring 20, 25 points a game in order to compete and to win. And we saw that today, clearly.
And BYU's headed across the country to Orlando, Mike, where they'll play in the Magic bracket of the Events Invitational. This was a pretty good MTE that was split into two four-team tournaments. The other one, you have a couple of okay mid-majors in there, but the Magic bracket is where the power conference teams are, and that starts on Thanksgiving. I believe that's a Thursday, Friday, Sunday tournament. At least it has been over the years. So probably Thursday, Friday, if I had to guess now, or maybe Saturday. I have to.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be better than expected. Miami so far this year has looked, you know,
Okay.
playable,
Yeah.
unlike last year.
Yeah.
So that's their opening game. BYU could have some trouble there.
And the other game in the and Miami has been a team that they're probably a year away. Their best players are Trey Donaldson and Malik Renew, who are solid players, but probably not like a top of the line tournament team. Um, but yeah, I think Miami took Florida to you know, they lost by 10, but that was a pretty close game for most of it. Um, and at this point, I think BYU they're going to have another chance for two more neutral court wins down there. So we'll have to see what they do from there. And then from Wisconsin's point of view, I just think their ceiling's probably a little bit lower than we initially thought. They have a few good players, as Joe and I have been saying over the past couple weeks, but it seems like their ceiling might be a little bit lower than some of the top teams. All right, Mike. Well, Saturday and Sunday, not a ton of action in there, but let's get to today. Day one of Maui, day one of Players Era. We had a few good games. Let's start out on the island. Seton Hall takes care of NC State 85-74. That's a scoreline that is honestly pretty flattering for the Wolfpack. Seton Hall is up by 20 for most of this one. And all of a sudden, Mike, Shaheen Holloway has his Seton Hall team at 6-0. But what a great performance here.
Yeah, I mean, for those that didn't know, Seton Hall only had 7 wins last year. So they're already 6-0. Yes, we saw them, play the Little Sisters of the Poor and win. But to get out here and get a statement win, like you said, only an 11-point victory, but Seton Hall was absolutely dominant. It was very clear. It felt like one team was making, selling out millions of dollars in NIL, and the other wasn't giving any out. But
Yep.
you didn't think that it was going to be NC State was the money bag school and Seton Hall wasn't. They just played tough. They dominated the game. They just looked like they wanted it so much more than NC State. NC State, maybe they just didn't have good trip out to Maui, and maybe you can just say that's why they looked sluggish. But Seton Hall came ready to play in this one, and they were absolutely dominant, more physical. They outpowered and outperformed NC State, and this game was never even close. So I think if you're a Seton Hall fan, you got to feel pretty good about this one, especially when you shoot 52% from the field. Absolutely dominant performance. It was, felt pretty good for the Pirates.
And they, Mike, as I've said here, last year they had 7 wins. Two of them were in the Charleston Classic, a pretty good MTE.
Yeah.
They are built for these three times in 3 days. And, they play a pretty solid 10-player rotation. Shaheen Holloway has always done that. Because they practice so hard that people get injured in practice, so he needs to have a couple extras for his rotation. That's what the thinking is. And, they're good at one-on-one defense. They always have been. They actually have a few people who can create off the bounce this year. Like you said, their strength of schedule hasn't been great so far, but they have covered in for the 5 first games of the year. And some of the statistics coming out of these games have been incredibly impressive, including their 2-point defense. They're number 2 in the country there. They're actually free throw defense is something that is just totally not really a stat, but teams are actually making a ton of free throws on them. So you'd think that maybe if that goes down a little bit too. But defensively, this team is really good. The 3-point, there are going to be games where teams make threes on them, and it is what it is. But their 2-point defense is good, and they've got a couple creators on offense, which, with where the Big East is at, Mike, I have to think that there's a chance that Seton Hall could get themselves into the middle of the pack, and then if they're able to knock off a big dog, who knows where they could go. But things have really changed for the Pirates because of them and because of some of the others.
Absolutely, and I think in general the Big East had a very encouraging weekend. They're 1-2 so far in Players Era, a couple of tight losses with Creighton and with St. John's. But with that being said, Butler had a really impressive weekend. They were able to beat South Carolina and UVA, and their MTE. Georgetown's undefeated right now. Seton Hall 6-0. The conference started to take a big step up this past weekend, and maybe they're not as bad as we initially thought.
And Mike, I've pulled up Bart Torvik here, and there's this thing that you can do with the dates. You can basically pick a period of time, and it'll give you the stats in that period. If you do November 3rd to now, it takes out all of the preseason information. So just on the data of the games, Seton Hall's 57th in the country at 6-0. And that is
Yeah.
fifth in the Big East. You've got UConn at sixth, St. John's at 21, Butler at 29, Villanova at 35, Georgetown at 68. So you've got six teams in the top 70, essentially, for the Big East. And you'd have to think that Creighton and Marquette are not those six teams that I mentioned. You'd have to think that they would play a little better than they have been, too. Marquette's already have three losses, and Creighton is 3-2. You have to think if those teams start to play a little better, this is more so of the Big East that we've been used to in the 11-team era with,
Yeah.
4 or 5 tournament teams and a couple NIT or Crown teams. But this data is extremely encouraging for the Big East because eventually, and it's different for whatever analytics site you use. Ken Palm has pretty much said, after 12 games, all the preseason stuff is out of there. Torvik, I think, is a little bit earlier, after 9 or 10 games. But with the actual data and not the preseason guesswork, the Big East is faring pretty well here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They have well exceeded expectations.
All right, Mike, let's go back to the scoreboard here. We had Tennessee beating Rutgers by quite a margin, 85-60. The point differential that will decide
Yeah,
a lot
it
of what
matters.
happens here, it gets capped at 20. I have a feeling we might be seeing that again for Rutgers tomorrow, but Tennessee rolled here. Jacoby Gillespie had 32 points, and Mike, Tennessee is looking like they've got a great chance to go to the championship game already.
Yeah, I mean, all they have to really do, I think, is win tomorrow and they're
Yep.
in. That having a 20 plus point victory is big, especially when Houston struggles to beat Syracuse.
And they do just get over the line, but barely.
Just get over the line there. Given they're going to have to play Houston tomorrow,
Yeah.
so that's going to be a tough one.
And
But if
Houston's
they
going to
can,
have to beat them by a lot since they didn't win this one by much.
true, yeah, but Tennessee, they're well on their way. It looks like. I think Kansas. We talked about this earlier. They're going to have a good chance. They had a 10-point victory. We're going to see how the rest of these games go. Um, I think this is just such a silly format.
Yeah, it really
At the end
is.
of the day, you don't know how good these teams are, and so it's not like a true MTE champion like your Maui, your Baha Mar, your Battle for Atlantis, your Greenbrier. It's just
Yeah.
there's no true champion in this. You just won by less, but you still won the game, and winning is what matters
And
at
it
the
could
end of the
be
day.
against a
So
way better opponent where that margin, even in the computers, is worth way more. Like Kansas, for example, Mike, we've talked about them a lot here. They have a 10-point win against Notre Dame today. They play Syracuse tomorrow. They very well could, with a 14 to 17 to 20-point victory tomorrow, be number one on the standings. And even though
team there, they're probably not one of the best four teams there.
they're probably
Yeah,
the seventh or eighth best team in that field. So
yeah.
that's something to look out for. Obviously, no Darren Peterson, but hey, if there's $1 million extra on the line for Game 3, I don't know. Maybe his teammates will say maybe that hamstring is all right to get out there. But yeah, so Kansas wins by 10. Not much to really discuss there. Houston does get over the line, like you said, Mike. This was a game where I was pretty impressed with Syracuse's length. I thought they didn't allow Houston to do the Houston thing to them.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately for Syracuse, a few shots didn't fall at the end, and Houston ends up winning it. But let's go to your Baylor Bears. Baylor 81, Creighton 74. A nice win. Cam Carr gets to 20. Seems like the Baylor formula is sort of what we thought it was, but it's also working.
And right now, you still got people that are out right now. I think Baylor's got
Yep.
three bigs. Some of them might be out for the season. Baylor hoping to get Bodo back. pretty soon. If you learn more about his injury, you'd be frustrated too. But with that being said, Cam Carr seems like he is the leader of this Baylor team right now early on. He's a very explosive player, something I did not expect to see this much out of. The transfer from Tennessee obviously didn't get much time under the Rick Barnes system, but he's looking good. Obi Agbum, he's a good scorer, but really what Baylor needs him to be is to be a distributor of the basketball and be a point guard because Baylor does not have a true point guard on this team after the Rob Wright departure in the middle of the transfer portal last year after he committed to staying at the school. So they're still trying to plug and play a whole lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
of plug and play with this Baylor team, but right now they're playing seven strong. If they can get Bodo back, you're going to have a roster, really a starting eight, which is we've seen a lot over with some Baylor teams over the years. We've got really eight players that are all playing a similar amount of minutes, and that's exciting for the Bears.
Yeah.
So, keep feeding Cam Carr. Try to eliminate the turnovers. Baylor still makes a lot of mental errors at times, and it's frustrating as a Bears fan. But they overall, I think you can't be unhappy with so far that at the start of the season with really the lack of star power that's on this Baylor team. On the flip side with Creighton, I think you're starting to get a little bit concerned. They had that blowout and against Gonzaga, and they really did not look impressive in this one either. I don't really know if they look like a tournament team, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They only lost by 7 points in this game against Baylor, but I don't think they ever led. They tied it at one point in the second half, but this was Baylor's game to lose the entire time. Baylor owned Creighton.
Yeah. And it's hard to watch, minute tip to final buzzer of all these games, so you're probably catching, bits and pieces and stretches. This was one that I look back to every time. Baylor was never in danger. But this is the sort of winning formula that we said, Mike, even back to our preview episode, is that Baylor can't star power their way to victories.
Nope.
Everybody's got to do everything. You win the rebounding battle by 17. You have 15 assists. You have 2, 3, 5, 1, 3. Everybody getting in on the assists. You shoot 14 more shots than Creighton and 6 more free throws. That's what Baylor's going to have to do. They're not amazing at any one thing. They're just going to have to be good at everything. And it seems like that might be enough to get, at least to where last year's team was and maybe even a little bit better as the Big 12 starts to show a few cracks at the top. It's still probably the best league from 1 through 7, but teams 1 through 4 might be 5 through 10 in the country rather than 1 through 5.
Absolutely. Houston's looked very exposed recently, and I think there's still a little bit of time with Houston
Yeah.
to get right and get to where they need to be going into conference play because they've still got a lot of freshman talent that they're relying on. Very, very dissimilar from their typical formula there. But you've also got teams like Arizona that are looking like they can absolutely compete for national championship in this conference. So, um, it's interesting how this is shaking out, but Arizona right now looking like probably the best team in the conference.
Yeah, and they've got the best resume for sure. I know some of their fans weren't too happy to see them not go to number 1 overall, but the number 1 team in the country won a game against a ranked team by 30. They're not going to be dropped out of that. That's just
Purdue's playing like the number one team in
yeah.
the country. You can't deny it.
That's just not how AP voters work. If you
Yeah.
win, you move up. If you lose, you move down. Now they did move Purdue out of number 1 despite them not losing, but I think they were down their second best player against a pretty good mid major. Stuff like that happens. I think that was quickly recorrected, but it doesn't matter what the AP voters say in November. Now it
Yeah.
does
Who
actually.
cares?
It's one of the Players Era tiebreakers, so it might matter for some NIL, and it does also matter in the American Football Conference for one of the tiebreakers, Mike, if you were wondering that. But it doesn't matter
I know
for the
now.
NCAA tournament committee. Arizona probably is the better resume at this point, but you're really splitting hairs in, talking about something that's 10% done, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Let's wait until at least January until we care about the top 25.
so one more game we're going to get to here, Mike. Also in the Big 12, we got Iowa State picking up a 83-82 victory over Rick Pitino and St. John's. This was probably the best quality game of the day. every time I looked, this one was pretty close, and then I watched the last 10 minutes or so. Iowa State is really good, and it's sort of the same story for St. John's. When they needed a bucket, they just couldn't get it. Momchilovich with 23, Jefferson was a real problem, and then when Lipsy went out with his injury, they didn't really stop Iowa State. He's obviously a great player, but they were able to weather his absence just enough for the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talk about holding on for dear life. This was a tremendous game,
Yeah,
back and forth. This is what you want out of MTEs. It would have been great to see this on a full court, on a packed court at the
yeah,
Lanai Civic Center, if I'm being honest. But with that being said, we can't pick the location. This was a tremendous game. I think this also looked good for St. John's. They lost this game, and there's no moral victories in basketball. But to be able to see your team kind of step up and compete in a big game, that feels good for them. And they've got some work to do right now. I think you expected them to do a little bit more when Lipsy was out. You probably expect to see a little bit more out of some of their guys on their team. You expect to see probably a little more out of Bryce Hopkins. He had a pretty good game, 16 and 7, but coming down the stretch, you want the ball in his hands. And he was a good scorer, but shot the ball very poorly today, other than the free throw line. 10 and 10 from the free throw line, 3 and 10 from the field. Sellers also, he had a really good game,
yeah. He
20
brought
points
him
in this one.
back.
He put the team on his back in this one. I think you just want to see more out of Hopkins and probably more out of some of these other starters on the team, like Sanan and Darling, that just didn't have much production for the team.
And Rick seems to be going with the hot hand approach for the St. John's team. There's 6 or 7 like really good players here. And Ian Jackson and Mitchell are the ones coming off the bench right now. Prey has been giving some good minutes at the backup 5 to Ejiofor. But when they needed the shot, they went with the hot hand in Sellers. He missed a pretty wide open mid range. And then their final play got sort of broken up, and Ejiofor ended up airballing a 3. Mitchell gets the rebound, lays it in for a meaningless 2 to some, not those with Iowa State minus 2.5. Wasn't me, but I've seen people all up in arms about it online. But it just seems like when St. John's needed a bucket, they weren't really sure who they were going to, and then when they did go to Sellers, it wasn't enough. But I thought Iowa State's defense was pretty impressive here. This is not a team in St. John's that you can sort of really focus on taking away one person. It's sort of got to be a team effort defensively. They did a really good job there. And then, when Lipsy exited, Jefferson sort of ran the point, really. The offense ran through him. Buchanan had a couple really nice plays. Momchilovich going to the hoop. And, Lipsy ended up coming back to the bench for the last couple minutes. So you'd have to think at this point that it's not going to be super serious. Not sure. Obviously, things could change there. But this was just the Otzelberger formula here. They got, I think, 4 stops in a row down the stretch to get the W.
Yeah, and that's what Iowa State is good at being. They can out physical you coming down the stretch, and that's what they did again here. Look, Iowa State didn't shoot the ball all that great today, but they always find a way to win in some of these tight games where they can just be more physical, more dominant with their roster of guys. Look, Iowa State only plays about 8. It's probably 7 guys deep. There's a couple other guys that get a little bit of garbage minutes
Yeah,
here and
I
there.
think that's an MTE thing. I think they'll probably be cut out for.
It
Yeah.
100% it is. It comes down to not playing 3 games in 3 days, they're playing 7 guys. And so the one thing is, how are they going to get the most out of those guys that are right there on the floor? Nate Heisey is another one that he's probably going to need to have a little bit of production coming off the bench. Had 25 minutes played, 7 points. That was pretty critical for them. But you think for them to be a tournament team, they're going to need a little bit more production out of guys on the bench.
But yep, that was Players Era. We're obviously in the middle of it here, so things are going to change pretty quickly. But that is all we're going to have for you today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.